You put the design there. Ang gagawin ng computer, i-modify niya slightly. Did it get better or not? And then modify it again. Did it get better or not? So millions and millions of doing that over and over again. Tapos pipiliin niya yung the best one out of all of those.
Welcome to the Cycling Matters podcast, your weekly dose of discussions about our love for bike.
Bike!
Yay!
Nice.
This podcast is brought to you in cooperation with Ciclo. Hello, I'm Karen.
And I'm Jan.
So, in this episode, we talk to PJ Tolentino, the design engineer of Rurok Industries, a Filipino company that designs and builds mountain bikes. We ask him about what makes Rurok bikes special, what their current product slate is, and what technologies are built into these bikes. But before everything else, subscribe to the Cycling Matters podcast on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast platforms. Just search Cycling Matters, tap subscribe or follow, and enjoy the discussion. So hello, PJ. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation on the podcast.
Hello. My pleasure, sobra.
Yeah, so just to begin, could you please tell us a bit more about yourself and what you do?
Okay, so in the cycling community, I'm known as PJ or usually PJax ang tawag sa akin. That's usually my cycling moniker. With Rurok naman, yes, we are a local bike company. So we are a small company, and whether we like it or not, we wear a lot of hats. Even though na hindi namin gusto yung ibang hats na wear namin. Pero the hat that I'd like to wear most is the design engineer hat.
Okay.
And that's what I've been doing. There's the CEO hat. There's the other hats. Ito lang ayoko nun eh. I just rather be doing the design and engineering, and that's what I've been doing before I did Rurok. So I've been in the fabrication industry, semiconductor manufacturing, solar manufacturing industry. That's really what I want to do. Yeah.
Wow, that's super cool. But currently, are you doing Rurok full-time or do you do other design engineering work?
I do Rurok full-time right now. Meron din akong mga side projects din. Although ngayon, especially at this time, ang focus ko is Rurok talaga.
Nice.
Wow, we're talking to the guy who's really imagining how the bike become the next bike will be designed.
So cool.
That's so cool. All right.
And do you ride bikes?
Yeah, sobra. Medyo, it's the one hobby na medyo nag-stick talaga sa akin. I've been riding for a long time talaga, yeah.
Yeah, since when have you been riding?
Sure, I don't know, maybe almost a decade, maybe even more. Yeah. So, yeah.
And what kind of riding do you do?
So personally, I really like the enduro side of riding. Speaking of enduro, so I don't like climbing at all. I don't like long rides. Medyo pagod, mainit, sobra, ganyan.
Okay.
I really, gusto kong type of riding out on the trail. Syempre, medyo malayo ka sa sibilisasyon, malayo ka sa kalsada, malayo ka sa mga kotse. I like going down, sobra. The rockier, the more technical, the better. Drops, jumps, mga ganong klaseng terrain. Yun yung parang mas nag-enjoy ako sa ganong klaseng riding. Yeah. Although, that's my hobby, diba? Pero I use my mountain bike to go on commute kasi, lalo sa atin, mas madali parking with the bike, mas mabilis, walang traffic. So, I use my bike for lots of things, pero the kind of riding that I like to do is the all mountain side of mountain biking. Yeah.
Wow. So, do you sometimes riding tipong as in sa bangin mismo ganun, mga ganong klaseng trail na talagang high speed, downhill riding, ganun siya?
Yes. Parang I don't know, parang mas hinahanap ko palagi, I don't know. Usually ang saya kasi nung feeling na after one trail, parang feeling, yes, buhay ako or something, or walang nabalian na buto. It's totoo talaga yun. Parang it's that feeling of, yes, safe ako ngayon dito, walang nangyari. Parang masarap yung feeling after the trail, after the ride, na ganun yung feeling. So yeah, been through lots of very sketchy stuff. Ganyan, very hirap. I love doing that. Yeah.
Wow, parang I can imagine only kasi, I mean, yun nga, diba? A lot of us here in Cycling Matters, puro roadies kami. And parang it takes so much handling, like skills to really like, and have the hand-eye coordination to make sure that you survive that, that trail. And whenever I
Right.
see videos online of those, yung mga Red Bull riders, ganyan,
Yeah.
na they do these crazy stunts, parang wow, like that's really something. But I guess no, we're wondering, is this something that your 10 years of riding, is it something that inspired you to create Rurok? How did Rurok come about?
Yeah, yes, definitely. So, parang I'm sure cyclists would relate, diba? Parang may umabot tayo sa point sa atin na parang napasobra tayo ng inom ng kape, tapos parang dami nating iniisip ng mga bagay, ganyan. Tapos parang dami nating idea sobra, parang gusto ko yung bike na ganito parang okay siguro tong gawin sa bike na ito kaya gawin natin na bike, or baka yung bike mas maganda kung ganito, di ba? That's actually how it really came about. Na parang napasobra kami ng inom ng kape, tapos parang naisip namin, parang ang ganda nitong siguro ganitong gawin natin na bike na ganito yung design, ganito yung itsura niya. Tapos hindi namin makayanan, I think we should put this into a real bike talaga, put it into, gumawa tayo ng ganitong bike talaga, kasi mukhang okay talaga to. So what we did then, so kami may mga co-founders, we sold our bikes, benta kami ng mga bikes, tapos mga existing bikes namin, parang 3 yung bike ko nun, binenta ko yung 2 medyo okay na bike. Binenta ko yung 2 para ma-fund yung development namin.
Wow.
Tapos, when we fund the development, we had the prototype, kasi naisip ko nun, at least kung nabenta ko tong bikes, tapos may prototype ako, at least may unique akong bike, di ba? Parang ganyan.
Yes.
And then we showed it to the public. Daming interest, parang daming, wow, that looks good, ganyan. And then slowly doon namin naisip na, yeah, maybe we have something here. Gawin na kaya dito in production. Let's do something about it. And then yun, medyo nag-snowball na from there. Kaya nagkaroon ng Rurok after that one. Yeah.
It's so nice that it took some sacrifice on your part na parang, okay, in order to come up with this bigger dream or experiment maybe at that time, you had to let go of some of your bikes. And siguro, nung time na yun, nung marami kayong nainom na kape, ilan kayo nun? How many yung parang original founders of the Rurok?
Original founders, 5 kami talaga dyan. 5 kami dyan. Sakto yun for incorporation kasi if you incorporate 5 incorporators, dapat ito. Yeah.
Right. And were all of you like engineers or was it just you? Ano yung Rurok members?
Mixed siya. So during that time, so I did the technical part kasi gusto ko talaga. The other co-founder, Wilmer Halamani, he did the business development side of things. So building the community, building the customers. Isa Halamani, also one of the co-founders, sobrang galing niya with multimedia. Sobrang galing na photographer, sobrang galing na media person, doing all the contents, doing everything. And then Chino Mendoza, siya naman yung aming guinea pig test rider namin. Siya yung most athletic sa amin. I'm not athletic. Mahilig lang ako magbike, but I'm not athletic. Pero siya yung really out there on the trail testing. Ganyan. And ang advisor naman namin, it's Julian Cleto naman. Siya yung pinaka nerd sa amin, siya yung pinaka matalino sa amin. Dami siyang ideas. So parang when it comes to parang advice ganyan, sa kanya kami talaga pupunta. So that was the 5 original founders of Rurok. Yeah.
And then has your team grown since then?
Yes, of course. It's always a revolving door. We're a small company. I mean, started as just friends, tapos life caught up with each one of us. So revolving doors, ganyan. So nag-iba-iba na din siya ngayon. Yeah. So ngayon, parang I do the tech and development. We have another person, Tristan Olivares. She's doing the operations naman. So operations, lahat involved supply chain, distribution. So she handles that one. And then we also had our Rurok factory racing team. We have our own kunyari, official, may factory racing team. Pero syempre, friends namin to. Gagaling din sila mag-ride. So, nakuha namin sila as our own factory racing team. Sila yung, nasa kanila yung mga prototype na bikes. They test it. They give us feedback.
Ang saya. So, why mountain bikes?
Yeah. Oo nga kasi parang mountain bikes talaga, decades talaga, hindi nawala sa akin. I think, well, siguro tatlo yung naisip ko na reasons why it stuck. The first one is, there's the mechanical aspect kasi of mountain bikes of bikes in general. Gusto ko yung holding tools, building bikes, repairing, fixing it. So it satisfies my mechanical
Right, okay.
my mechanical curiosity sa bikes, ganyan.
Okay.
So sobrang saya, sobrang nag-enjoy ako pag may iniikot lang akong tornilyo. Naubos na ako ng tornilyong iniikot. Ngayong quarantine period, naubusan na ako ng hihigpitan na tornilyo. Tapos the second one, nabagay ko na kanina, it's the risk taking talaga. Parang it allows me to experience yung mga parang mga risky things, ganyan. So going out on the trails, nag-survive ako after this trail ride or something. So I really like that one. And mountain biking, I can get close to that one. And the third is the health aspect of it, health and the social aspect of it. So kahit saan magpunta, so madaming riders everywhere. Dito sa Las Vegas, nagulat ako, so madaming riders dito sa Vegas. Filipinos, foreign people, everyone, sobrang dami. So that really stuck with me, and the health aspect, of course. It's a sport, like makahanap mo yung other three from other activities, pero sport pa rin talaga si mountain biking, so that's why I like it.
Okay, it sounds like I don't know, parang it seems like there's really a lot of factors and that excites you, both in riding and in the creation of bikes itself. Parang imagine ko nga compared to road bike na parang medyo boring to if you compare it to a mountain bike kasi parang talagang we're on the road and we just ride straight. Whereas you have to imagine and empathize with your riders who are literally going through ravines and everything, no? But I guess meron tayong ngayong new factor, no, na dumating, and I think Karen has something to ask about that.
Yeah, so right now we're in the middle of a pandemic. So we were wondering, like, so how has COVID-19 affected Rurok Industries? I mean, for our listeners, right now PJ is in Las Vegas. He's out in the Philippines right now. So yeah, how has COVID-19 affected your company?
I guess it's the one small silver lining with everything. It's widely publicized that talaga the whole bike industry is experiencing a boom talaga. So we did notice na lots of people are turning into bikes talaga ngayon. So we did get a lot more inquiries than before. Now, almost we didn't expect it talaga. We didn't prepare much for it. Pero yeah, we did see lots more riders going into it. Although it's not, I wouldn't say na the effect was so big because ngayong pandemic, the majority talaga of what people are looking for is in the city commuter bikes talaga.
Right,
that experienced a big boom. We are Rurok. We are specific enough to be on the performance side of riding. That's what Rurok is like. Kasi we're on the performance side. People are still looking after the performance bikes even in the pandemic. Parang hindi naman nawawala yon. Pero in terms of how that turned into more people riding, it's not that big of a jump talaga. Yeah.
Gets. So given the pandemic, like you're in Las Vegas, and maybe your other people in your team are in the Philippines. So how are things working about like how you go about your work?
Yeah, very nice question. Actually, I mentioned this before. even as a small startup company, I always say that we're just a small startup company. We've always found it better to be working at our own time. I mean, we back in the Philippines, we used to hold office, ganyan.
Right.
Pero it's almost always for us founders na better talaga to be working at our own time. Sabi ko nga, especially as designers, whenever inspiration hits us, ganyan. And
Nice, yeah.
and that usually parang hindi namin mawala din sa sarili namin. We'd like to ride, ganyan. So parang we don't have to always be in one space talaga to do our work, ganyan. We do it at our own time. We take advantage talaga of the tools and the internet tools that we have on hand. For example, back then when we were doing the very first prototype, the very first Rurok with the original co-founders, we were all working at our own day jobs back then talaga. So how we managed to develop the bike, sobrang ano na talaga. After work hours, stay ako sa office. Design muna sa office, ganyan. Huwag niyo sabihin sa boss ko. Pero design muna, tapos over chat, send screenshot, over chat, tapos magdi-discuss kami online over chat. So kaya namin talaga siyang gawin remotely. Tapos with our manufacturers, ngayon kasi you can just email the design file to our CNC fabricator. Sobrang dali lang niya i-manage talaga without being actually in the same place. So fast forward to today, ngayon, it's even more easier now talaga doing that. Yung we've had access to yung the way we share CAD files with each other, mas high-tech na ngayon kasi parang meron ng bagong yung partner namin, which is Solid Edge, they have this new system for sharing the 3D files to everyone na kayang tingnan lahat in 3D, ganyan. And then of course, communication namin, sobrang dali lang naman ng communication. We just talk over chat, ganyan. So it wasn't such a big jump talaga in terms of our operations.
Okay, that's good to hear.
Moving into this one. Ang nag-iba lang talaga is we couldn't visit our manufacturers as much as we'd like anymore. Pero it's not that big of a difference kasi naman, yun nga, there's always the online discussion with them naman.
Yeah, it's good to hear that things were already done remotely in the first place. So not that much of a huge transition. Just out of curiosity, regarding COVID, since you're in Las Vegas right now, are you riding there? Like, I'm not sure, like, what do they have shelter in place guidelines, or what's do you get to ride in Las Vegas?
Yes. So I did notice the difference din talaga. I know that for some time, sobrang strict ng quarantines in the Philippines. I've been hearing from my friends na hindi sila makaride, atat na mag-ride ng mga tao, hindi talaga.
Right, yeah.
We never had something like that here. Parang it's always, especially nagsarado lahat. This is Las Vegas, famous for the casinos. Sarado lahat ng casinos, businesses, mga non-essential, ganyan. But all the trails are still, I mean, hindi naman hinuhuli yung mga gusto mag-trail riding. And na-notice din namin dito na when that happened, lots more people are going into biking, going into hiking, outdoors. And there's still this sense of protection with each other. I mean, observing pa rin social distancing, ganyan. Pero as far as the outdoors, ano pa rin, we were still able to ride. Pero ang nakita kong difference noon, wala na yung mga, we have our own group, di ba? Wala na yung mga invite lahat ride, big rides over the weekend, ganyan. Medyo nagsari-sarili na yung mga tao ngayon. Ganyan. Pero, yun nga, we were still riding. Actually, kanina lang din, kahagaling ko lang din sa ride. So, with two friends, ganyan. So, we were out riding. Ganyan. Nice. It's different talaga, na-notice ko. Different yung, I guess, culture dito and how everyone dealt with it. Yeah.
Okay. Let's go into more onto the brand naman now. Okay. So
Yeah.
maybe you can tell us about the current offerings of Rurok. And we know that you have 3 bikes. Maybe you can introduce them to our listeners.
Okay, so the very first bike that we had, that's the Cordillera. All our bikes are named after mountains in the Philippines. So Cordillera, we did a lot of testing in the Cordillera talaga.
Oh,
That's
wow.
our
That's so cool.
yeah. That's our it's a 150 millimeter full suspension bike. And yung thing talaga namin ito, it's built for enduro racing sa Pilipinas. So we do a lot of uso-uso couple years back ang enduro racing sa Pilipinas. So we had that in mind when we did the Cordillera. And then the second one that we had is the Canlaon. So named after Mount Canlaon naman. That's our hardtail. Banggatin ko na din, when we do bikes, it's usually, ang iniisip namin talaga, why do we want to do bikes, diba? Parang, we don't want to make bikes just to make another bike. It's always, galing pa rin dun sa ideas namin, yung parang, galing pa rin sa thing that we think we can make it better. Yun yung tagline namin making better bikes. Right. So parang when the Canlaon came about, because we thought, I think we can make a better hardtail, hardtail bike with a special dropout system, like an adjustable geometry system. So that's why we did the Canlaon, our second bike. There's a special dropout system. We call it Play and Slay. Very unique to Rurok. People are saying this kind of system you really won't see on any other bike, period, out there. The adjustability niya, compatibility with different hubs, super unique to Rurok lang talaga yun. So yun. Parang that's why we did the second bike, because of that. And then our third bike, I think we should be able to get that out into the market this October. Medyo na-delay kami kasi because of supply chain issues, ganyan.
Yes.
Pero we leveled up talaga yung how we designed bikes talaga, what we put into that, the Halcon. So the third bike is called the Halcon, named after Mount Halcon. It's supposed to be the ultimate mountain in the Philippines. So we wanted to put that into the Halcon. So if I may, I'd like to go a little bit geeky sa design namin ng Halcon. Ganyan.
Yeah.
So the one thing that we took advantage of when designing the Halcon, it's called medyo geeky in term. It's called topology optimization. So parang usually when you design something, for example, you design a certain part sa bike, okay? There's this designer, sabihin niya, it should be this thick, it should be this, ganito kalaki yung hole, ganito kahaba dapat, etc. So it's up to the designer to say na, this is enough, this is stiff enough, this is light enough for this certain application. So maraming math and experience involved into doing that, testing, etc.
Right.
With topology optimization, everything is done by the computer. So sinasabi lang namin sa computer, this is the part, the hole should be this long, for example. It should be this light, it should be this stiff. Ganyan. Design the part for me. Click, design. It will mag-run yung computer for several hours, depending kung gaano kabilis yung computer. And then afterwards, it will spit out this very, very organic looking, usually yung mga parts na lumalabas niyan, because it's a iterative computer algorithm process. Kaya pag lumalabas yung parts, usually very complicated. It's not something that a human being could ever think of. Ganyan. Pero it's highly optimized for what you want it to be, for the stiffness, for the strength, for the lightness that you want it to be. And so we really took
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Did you design that software yourself, like in-house?
The software is we had access to that kind of software through our partner Solid Edge.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so talagang when we had this opportunity to partner with Solid Edge, we really took advantage of it. Kasi yung ganong klaseng ganong klaseng access to a technology like that, sobrang cool. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's the future of design. I've said that lots of times before. Topology optimization, generative design, that's the future of everything, I think.
Yeah, I
Let
mean,
the computer design for it.
right. You mentioned the parang it's something that a human being can't do. I feel like a human being can, but it will take that human being like 1,000 years
Yeah,
siguro. Compared to
exactly.
the speed of a computer.
It's like it's a very iterative process. So example,
Yeah.
you put the design there. Ang gagawin ng computer, i-modify niya slightly. Did it get better or not? And then modify it again. Did it get better or not? So millions and millions of doing that over and over again. Tapos pipiliin niya yung the best one out of all those millions of operation. So yun talaga, exactly, parang it's a very iterative process. Humans can do it, pero takes sobrang long
Yeah,
time.
ang galing na you have that access. But when that computer is providing you with options and when you're also deciding, what kind of considerations do you take in? What are those important things that parang non-negotiables for you when you're deciding on the design of a new bike?
Okay. So lalabas siya dito. Number is manufacturability. Like I said, very complex yung lumalabas na shape. Okay? So that means na yung mga parts that we can optimize using topology optimization have to be the CNC parts. So CNC is this manufacturing process where you have a chunk of metal, you remove the metals from that part. So it's very easy to remove metal into very complex shapes. So kaya yung mga CNC parts namin with the Halcon nandito, these are generatively designed. So yung number one consideration, is it manufacturable? Yung lumalabas. And then I think yung strength and stiffness na lang is the other consideration.
Okay.
When the computer designs it, we have our own parang target design goals. It should be this stiff, it should be this strong. So we put that into the computer. The computer will spit out the best part for it. Yeah.
Oh wow, okay. So what kind of materials do you usually use when you're deciding on these things? It's nice that you're able to design. I assume na, diba, since you're able to design using this topology optimization, you're not just conforming to kung ano yung mga standard pieces and parts that are out there in the market. You're able to produce new things with your CNC production. No? But what kind of materials do you use for your parts?
Yeah, I like that question. Kami talaga, we stick to aluminum, and there's a very good reason for that. Because we always do our own design, because we always think of something to what you call this? Because there's always something new with our bikes. We have to create prototypes. We have to create several prototypes. We have to be able to test them. That means that we have to stick to a manufacturing process that's very quick, very easy to prototype. So that's why we stick with aluminum, because it's so easy to CNC machine it. The tubes are all available, readily available, and it's so fast to create a prototype.
Right.
In contrast, if you want to go with an exotic material like carbon fiber, that's possible, pero the outright capital cost for making a carbon fiber mold that's only for prototyping, sobrang mahal. And because we have always do something new about it, we always change it. We go through several prototypes. We can't afford to have 5-10 different molds just for just to develop one bike. Ganyan. So yun, that's why we stick with aluminum. Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of prototypes, since you mentioned it, you have 3 bikes now. How many prototypes do you usually have for each model before you actually release it to the public?
Oh man, sobrang dami. Sobrang dami. Pero I think the Cordillera, dahil medyo, syempre first bike namin yon. I think 5 lang konti lang ata yun. 5 prototypes, I think. First one, yeah. Daming mali from the first one. So talagang we really have to go through everything. Kanlaon, medyo marami. I think 8 ata kami with the Kanlaon, or maybe even more. Yeah. And the same with the Halcon. Siguro mga 8 din siguro, almost 10 na kami with the Halcon. The prototypes all in the wild, yeah, testing.
Okay. Dami rin. Now,
Marami rin, yeah.
how do you usually do sizing? I mean, that's something that people think the standard yung sizing, it's just small, medium, large for some bikes. But since you pride yourselves with, diba, making things better and having your own thing, is there anything different with how you size your bikes?
Yeah. So there's this new sizing, what you call this? There's a new sizing philosophy with modern mountain bikes. I think that's what yung sinasabi ng industry ngayon. Before, ang common knowledge is when you size a bike for mountain biking, nasa height eh. Anong height mo? O, pag ito yung height mo, dapat medium ka, small ka, or large ka. Pero as we ride a lot, experience namin, ang napansin talaga namin is really not your riding style is a bit bigger determination of your bike size talaga. So parang, kasi ngayon, especially ngayon, uso na yung dropper pose yung upuan na tumataas, baba, ganyan. So, right. Hindi na concern yung seat tube length for your bike ganyan. So, in fact, the Kanlaon, sobrang liit ng seat tube length ng small, ng size 1 namin and size number 2 namin. There's like 10 millimeter difference from that one. It's not a big difference between the seat tube length because we know people are going to be putting a dropper post in it. Diba? So, the major consideration talaga is the riding style. So, for example, ako, 5'8" and a half ako, rather tall, I think. Pero the Kanlaon that I'm using here in Vegas, that's the size number 1, which is the short one. We call it the short one. So I think it fits my riding style kasi I like to be jumping a lot, ganyan. So fits me quite well, ganyan. So that's how we size din talaga. We don't even call it small, medium, large. We just call it size number 1, size number 2. Pick one that fits your riding style the best. Yeah.
That way, it's a bit more relative nga, no? Since you mentioned that it depends on your style. So hindi siya small, medium, large. Interesting. I'm gonna go a bit back though to the part about prototypes. Dun sa mga unang earlier prototypes of your bikes, what kind of issues or challenges did you encounter when you were designing them?
So the very first prototype, because yung bikes namin kasi always had this special suspension system, diba? There's a lot of moving parts. Pinakamalaking concern talaga has always been the clearance issues. Mm-hmm. So when you design something that moves a lot, we had to make sure that there's enough clearance between all the different moving parts. So that was a big lesson learned from the very first prototype that we did. Maraming conflicts with other components. And that's also the second thing. It's the compatibility with other components.
Right.
Kasi when you have that bike, because you put a certain crank or certain part into it, we had to make sure that mag-fit siya. Kaya we really find it super essential. We don't even think that Rurok would be something without our CAD software. We really rely heavily on our CAD software. Doon sa CAD software namin, that's where we design the bike. Meron kaming models ng mga wheels, tires, brakes, cranks, forks, ganyan. So we model it in CAD first to make sure na wala kaming issues with clearances.
Right.
Ganyan. So once we model it in CAD, saka namin siya pinoprototype. Pero usually talaga there are errors along the way, unavoidable. Pero at least with the CAD software that we have, hindi ganun kadaming prototypes ang kailangan namin.
Right. Parang lesson din yung guesswork that you have to do since na-imagine yun na siya. Cool. Okay. Where do you produce or build your bikes?
Okay. So prototyping, that's all done here locally. That's because it's always faster that way. Tapos yung CNC machining namin, based on my experiences with my experiences before as a engineer for the manufacturing companies. I have marami na akong contacts with CNC machining. So we have them CNC machine the parts for us, and then we have local welders to build the prototypes. When it comes to manufacturing, that's the tricky one. I have yet to see a well-established welder bike welding facility here sa Philippines, like local welders. That's enough for the rigors of all mountain riding of mountain biking. I mean, we have attempted to weld it here locally. Pero yung mga nawo-weld dito so far, bumibigay talaga. I mean, bumigay yung mga frames na ginawa namin dito just because it's always an ongoing thing sa amin na we hindi kami pa masatisfy with the welds na nagagawa dito. So in production, welding is done overseas in Taiwan, but the CNC, we had the option to do that here also. Okay. So parang pagdating dito, integrate namin dito, we do the assembly here. But the welding, it's more lean for us to do it overseas.
Yeah. And imagine you can't skimp on welding because your bikes really take
we've been looking. I mean, ever since we've done Rurok, even before pa talaga, we've been trying really hard to do it. Pero mukhang hindi pa kaya. We think it's a baby step parang inuunti-unti namin. So dito man CNC machining muna gawin natin dito. Well, tingnan muna natin if we are able to invest in a welding facility. We'll do it. I think with everything going on with the demand in biking, we're really seriously considering doing something like that here.
Wow. Okay. Now, after all these years of building and sending bikes out there, I don't know if this is confidential. Just let us know. But can you give us like a number of how many Rurok bikes are already out there in the world?
In the world. Medyo confidential, of course. It reveals a lot about our company. But I would say we are a very small company. We are a boutique brand. I mean, this is just our passion talaga. We're not looking to hindi kami nag-mass produce. That's the thing din kasi. People are always asking us na bakit mahal-mahal talaga niyan. We can't we stick to what we do best, ganyan. I would say na although we don't produce as much talaga, it's all over the world naman at the very least.
Right. That's a nice thing to know. Especially it's locally designed and produced partly. Can you tell us a bit more about the suspension systems naman of your different bikes? Now, this is something that we're honestly asking because hindi kami very familiar with how mountain bike technology works. I've been browsing through your website and I see that you have your play and slay. Meron ngang long play and short play, and then you also have your long slay and short slay, which it's very interesting looking at your website because all the information is there. You have all the specs, and you even have the technical drawings of your bikes. One thing that caught our attention though is what is the OptiLink on the Halcon, and how is it different from the IsoLink on the Cordillera?
Oh wow, yeah, I really like that question. Pandering to my engineering nerdy stuff talaga. I really want that. I really like to talk about it a little bit more. Okay. So yeah, the Cordillera was built because of our IsoLink, the suspension design that we think, which is IsoLink. Ang goal niya is efficiency. We wanted to pedal very well. We have achieved that goal through IsoLink. I won't go into the detail with IsoLink kasi right now we've developed a new thing and we call that OptiLink. Okay, so what's the difference between that one? Okay, so prepare ako. Hinga muna ako ng malalim.
Go for it.
To explain it. In a suspension system, there are several performance metrics. Okay, so parang grading system lang yan. Okay, this suspension system has this leverage ratio, this anti-squat value, etc., etc. So you can compute for those performance metrics mathematically, geometrically talaga. As in totoong geometry, drawing ka ng lines, nag-intersect yung line, etc., etc. So very heavy into math talaga. But you can compute for all these performance metrics. Okay? So the thing naman dito, with suspension systems, nauso din sa mountain bike kasi yung cogs sa likod, sobrang laki. Ngayon, with the 50-tooth cog sa likod, tas 10 yung pinakamaliit. So, when you score the performance of a suspension system, very important yung chain position. Okay? So, a suspension system might perform very well at one chain position. Pero dahil nag-shift ka, nag-iiba yung position ng chain, nagbabago yung performance score niya. A performance score might be good in the 12-tooth cog or whatever. Pero pag nilagay mo sa 50, pangit na yung performance score niya. Kasi the chain is very important. So our goal with OptiLink is to take that into consideration. Design the suspension system that performs really well with good performance metrics for all the different chain positions. Okay? And when we set that goal talaga, sobrang hirap talaga nun. Kasi nga, I mean, you have 10, 11 different chains. Tapos, sobrang hard to compute for all those values. You have to take that all into consideration. And then, saan mo ilalagay yung suspension pivots mo? Ganyan. Parang, it's a really, traditionally, it's done by trial and error. Lalagay mo yung pivot mo this position, ganyan. Sa bike, ganyan. Huhulaan mo kung saan yung magandang position. Okay. The thing we did with Halcon, we also did it similar to topology optimization, pero iba naman ang tawag sa kanya. We call it parametric optimization. We let the computer find the best pivot positions for it. So, eto naman, this software, yes, we did create this one. We actually coded it ourselves. We coded it in Python. We did all the math. Ginagawa ng software was it will compute mathematically the performance score of a certain configuration. Kunyari, lalagay mo yung pivot points, this place, ganyan. And then the computer will change the pivot position slightly, and it will say, okay, but is it better or not? If it's better, keep moving it, ganyan. So, isa-search niya all the different millions and millions of different combinations of that pivot placement. And after 30 minutes, usually we run it for 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, i-output yung assignment. Okay, this is the best. This is the configuration with the best performance. Wow. So, yeah. So, we are super proud of how we did that one. Di pa namin masyadong binabrag ngayon, pero yeah, that's something that Rurok only has.
That sounds like really serious business. It's nice to know that directly from you and hear how much thought you've put into all of this.
Yeah, super cool.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be very geeky about that part. Yeah. Tagal ko naghanap ng avenue to be geeky about it.
Yeah, and we love it. Super duper cool hearing about this, especially like personally, I'm a road cyclist, and even with road bikes, I don't really understand all of the mechanics behind it. So it's really cool hearing from like for mountain bikes, like how it really works, and super cool.
I'm going to share something din na natutunan ko with road bikes. I've heard for example, Trek, they have this. Kasi I was able to talk to the engineer who worked on this project.
Oh, cool.
Parang with the carbon fiber layup, there are different things to consider. Anong klaseng direction ng fiber, anong size, how thick, ganyan, diba? There are so many different factors to consider. And you can't just do it all at the same time. So what Trek did with that engineer, the same thing that we did. They let the computer test and try out all the different combinations parametrically. That's called parametric optimization. And then they let the computer spit out which one did they calculate was the best parametrically calculated configuration for the I think it was the seed tube of the Trek Madonna or something. I forgot.
Oh.
Pero ganun. So that was also parametric. So they did it with the carbon fiber layup. So we're doing the same thing, but this time with the suspension layout. Siguro, mas ma-appreciate siguro na I show the suspension layout. Papakita ko
Sure, we'll describe it to our listeners.
Hindi ba kita dito?
No, go ahead.
YouTube, yeah.
Just describe it.
I mean, this is ito yung 4 pivot points you have. This one, and this one. That's very change that by a millimeter. Sobrang iba na yung performance ng bike. So the positions of this one was not determined by me. I did not tell it to be there. The computer told us that these 4 positions, the best one is that position. Ang gagawin ng computer, they will put it dito, everywhere on the bike.
Tatry niya talaga lahat.
Tatry niya lahat. There are infinite possibilities, di ba? So parang nabuo niya lahat, and then at the end of 30 minutes, hanapin niya the best position. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, which bike is this again? Sorry.
That is the Halcon.
The Halcon.
The Halcon third bike. We did not have that with Isonic, the Cordillera, the first bike.
I see.
Ito lang namin sa Halcon.
Gets. And for our listeners, you can, if you're listening from a podcast platform, you can check out our video on YouTube to see the part that he was talking about. Yeah. Yeah. So, I guess earlier you mentioned that your bikes are really performance bikes talaga. But then, would you know if your clients have had other uses for your bikes, like maybe for bike transport?
Definitely. Nagagamit din for bike. Even ako, I mean, when I go around town, gamit ko yung bike ko. Yun na din ginagamit ko na bike because that's the only bike I have. Pero very interesting dito yung bike transport issue para sa amin. Sabi ko nga for us with Rurok, the thing with us is we try to make things better, di ba? Yes. We're really interested in making a city bike for bike transport. We're really looking into that. Kasi nga, it's something na people are looking for, di ba? Pero if we're going to do that, we're not just going to be making another city bike or whatever. It's so easy to do that, di ba?
Yeah.
Pero minom na kami ng maraming kape just to think of what are people looking for in a city bike and na hindi pa nakikita before, na not available elsewhere, or parang ganun, or what problem remains unsolved in city bikes, di ba? And that's we've been trying to answer that question talaga, and I've been talking to several people. Malapit na ako, I want to do a design thinking. I don't know if you heard of that thing, but there's a design thinking seminar.
Yeah.
Siguro dito also with your audience, siguro if someone's interested in something like that, sige,
we definitely
design thinking something talaga.
Yeah.
Kasi kami, we're on the performance side, di ba? On design. Pero we are not well in touch with the basic utility bikes, di ba? Other people have more experience there, have more thoughts about that. So gusto ko talagang mag-set up ng isang online design thinking session with that one. So yun nga,
we're game for that.
Yes. So, let's do something like that. Let's do something like that. Yeah. I was gusto kong ma-contact, I mean the very, especially mga vocals sa community in city bikes, ganyan. Really want to tap into them.
Right now, parang whenever we have people, new cyclists coming up to us and asking what's the right bike that I should choose for my commute, and we have this article up in our website about basically showing them the range of different existing types of bikes. And when you're talking about the utility or city bike, medyo parang it could be the mamachari, it could be, diba, a hybrid bike that has a parang road bike na merong flat bar. So parang hindi pa masyadong defined, especially for the Filipino landscape, yung ano yung tamang bike, ano yung ideal bike that will really fit the needs of the Filipinos within our setting. So exciting, sobrang exciting yan.
And especially, I really think that we have different problems in our daily commutes than other other countries, diba? So maybe there's this
definitely.
specific problem now we encounter that no other company is being addressed, diba? That's something we really want to look into. Yeah.
Exciting stuff.
Nice. So yeah, aside from a possible city bike or something that we use for bike transport, what else is next for Rurok?
Well, we just so ito, yun nga, it's just our passion. We just want to keep making better bikes. I mean, we have our hands tied with the Halcon. So right now, yung production namin dito is just slowly ramping up. August nga sabi ko. Um, um, we have di pa namin mabanggit, pero we do have our site set up on different versions of the Canlaon, maybe in a different material. I don't know. We're talking about that one. Pero as much as that, I'd say yun talaga. We just we make bikes when we think we can make it better. It might not be under the Rurok brand or in whatever brand. Of course, we want to keep Rurok as the performance brand, diba? We really like to keep the brand intact talaga. So we'll make bikes if we have something if we have something to make it better. So ganun kami palagi. So yeah, so maybe there's something that we can do.
Nice. So I guess just before we end really quickly, maybe in summation. So for people looking into performance riding, like which Rurok bike should different riders consider buying? Like for the Canloon, what should they? Yeah.
Parang based on our products, which one should they pick based on what they'd like to do?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think if you don't have a hardtail, get a hardtail. So parang para sa akin, parang you it's always better to be on a hardtail first than a full suspension bike, kasi you learn a lot more skills with a hardtail. Ngayon, if you already have a hardtail and you want a full suspension bike to be a little bit more aggressive, if you're doing a lot more light trail, yung medyo hindi masyadong aggressive, the Cordillera is the choice. It's very fast. It's modern geometry, so okay na siya for that kind of aggressive riding. But if you really want to be super modern, super progressive, get the Halcon kasi sobrang yung geometry numbers niyan is super. People will say it's very scary. I mean, super long, super snack head tube angle. It's something talaga na parang fearless kami sa specifying the geometry ng Halcon. So it's a very especially if you're a beginner rider, medyo mahirap siyang sakyan kasi maninibago ka talaga with the new. If you're not familiar with the new geometry, maninibago ka. It's very hard to control. Pero if you're really into catching up with performance, we go the Halcon kasi it's really something. Yeah.
Awesome. Nice. And yeah, how can people purchase your bikes? Maybe where can they reach you? Maybe you can promote like your website, socials.
Yes, so website namin rurokindustries.com. You get may contact page doon, andun yung online shop namin. Although yung online shop namin Google form lang yon, kasagutin kami. So it's really when we connect with customers, ano na talaga, it's always a chat with them talaga. Kausap talaga namin all the customers that we go to. Hindi siya automated, ganyan. So, and then in social media, we try to be everywhere all the time. So Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, we're hopefully we're there. We try to be there most of the time. So Rurok Industries, that's all you need to search for.
Nice. So PJ, thank you so much for taking the time to join this episode. We really learned so much, and this is such a good discussion. I learned so much about mountain bikes and all the technology behind it. Super cool. Yeah, so that ends our episode. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere you can find podcasts. Our episodes are the next best thing to riding your bike on a Monday. Just search Cycling Matters on your favorite podcast platform to kickstart your day. Put on some earphones and enjoy the discussion. You can catch more of Cycling Matters on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, or on our website at cyclingmatters.ph. So thanks so much for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next episode of the Cycling Matters podcast. Until then, stay safe and ride safe, Philippines. Bye!